right, so we're here today to highlight really the power of live lessons in reading recovery. And what I want you to know is that we're going to be showing a clip of live lessons in action. So I want to just give you a little bit of a forefront of what it is you will be seeing and the purpose behind it at all. So reading recovery, every year they are required to have 6 sessions where they are with a teacher leader and other colleagues, and they come together so that we continue to ensure that all who are involved will deepen their knowledge about working with students and about their own teaching and the implementation of reading recovery as a whole. These sessions include the opportunities to observe and discuss live lessons with actual students. And this teaching happens behind a two-way mirror, like you see here. So in the next parts of this recording, you will see teachers in action having conversations about a lesson in progress. So the purpose to do live lessons is really just to elicit more of a deeper thinking and analytical conversations around theory and then procedures, which we have in place for reading recovery, and have all of that around an authentic experience that we have in common. So teachers watch as the child and the teacher do a 30-minute lesson. And as lesson is happening, the teachers are observing like the actions and reactions of the teacher and the child, and determining and having conversations about what is working really well and what are some things that perhaps maybe are getting in the way of that student's progress. The teacher leaders who facilitate those conversations, so I would be one of those, and Alyssa Rowe, who is in De Pere, also facilitates these conversations. We're trained actually to add the right kinds of comments, add the right kinds of questions, prompting different kinds of theory base that is added to those conversations in order to get the most thoughtful and specific and deep conversations we can. So really the whole goal is to deepen and stretch our thinking overall. So the structure you're going to see is going to be, for the first 7 to 10 minutes, we are upstairs in another room. The teachers spread out their records. The teacher who's teaching the lesson spreads out their records, and all of the teachers who are in that group have about 7 to 10 minutes to pore over those records. And the records might include writing vocabulary and change over time from the beginning to now, lesson records over the last few days or week and the running records that go with it, book lists that the child has read with the accuracy and self-correction rates, as well as goals that the teachers set for them. So all those records are out, and the teachers look at them without help from the teacher giving the lesson and try to develop their own theory of that child as a reader and a writer. And then the teacher giving the lesson adds any new insights about who that child is that might help frame the conversation when we come back down here. So after that's done, we do come down here, we have the 30-minute lesson, we have the conversation, and then the last piece is that teacher then comes back in for a debrief. And at the very end, we wind it back down to some of the key insights that we think will be helpful. So stay tuned, because you'll be watching this all in action in the next segment, and we invite others at any time, principals, classroom teachers, specialists, to come join the conversation on any day we have live lessons. But since that's not a possibility for everybody, we thought this might be another way for you to see how that all works in real time. And if you have any questions about what's going on or how we do this, you can either ask me or the teachers in your buildings. So stay tuned. So let's begin our work with looking over the records and coming to a theory of what we know about these students. We're going to take till 10 after to do that. So
That's pretty good. Jennifer ball, play day, out, cat. Some inflections, looking, frisbee. It must be like a high interest, you know, like when he really, right?
What is he mostly? Got like a running record.
Wow. He needs to go up.
So think about those
Mostly,
words
there's
in
some
relation to
visual
what you might
here,
be seeing
but then
in
meaning and
writing
structure.
and problem solving. That might be something to kind of check on.
Looks like he's putting his finger in, finger in.
I mean, just look at those two kind of repetitive.
Got
You know what I
to
mean? Like, there's really, you put the garland.
Yeah,
kind of
pattern
know
work
if
is
he
really
was
here.
talking
About
that
what you
through
would
his
expect
head.
for a
Right.
child.
Well, maybe it was a story that was told over several days, you know. They do
Oh,
in the
right,
classroom,
or
like first, what do you do? The box and take out the trees.
Is that set up?
Evan, and he's in a level 13. And for her predictions of progress, he needs to develop a lot of independence with seeing parts and hearing parts in words when writing. Also some work with dialogue and punctuation as related to meaning. He needs to start noticing those things on his own. I mean, we noticed in his writing that he did a lot of analogies on his own, and he did clap some words and hear those parts like garland. So he's starting to be more independent with that, I think.
The running records look good. Don is questioning his independence. Is he ready to discontinue here before Christmas?
John, what do you want to add?
That's pretty much it. As a reading recovery teacher, I have a tendency my own self to do more for the child than what the child can do for himself.
Oh, like just
So, so again, I'm having to back off and really work on figuring out what he knows. He's a very quiet child, and so when you have a child who is quiet and a teacher who talks a lot, I fill in the blanks for everything, and he just nods a lot. So in level 1 at instructional, so I think he's made great progress. He's in a great classroom who's supportive of everything that we're doing and connecting to everything that we're doing. So again, it's just, I have to let him show me what he knows and step back, and sometimes there's an example where we did lights and boxes and I could hear Mari Clay saying, stop that, or Mary Freed, but you know, I'm letting him decide when he goes up to the white page, the practice page, what do you want to try? Okay, how do you want to figure out that word? Do you want to clap it? Do you want boxes? And so I'm trying to get him to automatically do that. If he doesn't, I'll just say, so what do you want to do? Try it. Or do you know that word fast and quick? And I have found in the last 2 days of doing that, I've only been doing that for 2 days, he knows a lot more than I think he knows. So because of that quietness, you fill in gaps that probably don't need to be filled in. So.
Ah, great job. All right. Can you write that word little that you know the best?
Like,
Yeah.
where are
Where would
those
you rank
levels
that?
of support? Are we at high
Yep. let's go.
support
All right,
where we're
good
actually
job.
teaching
All
them
right.
something new?
We'll keep working on that one, all right?
Are we in the
Working on
middle
that?
where we're
All
prompting,
right,
prompting,
let's say, let's
prompting?
start with little dinosaur the
Or
hero.
are
Tell
we
me
at least
what happened
support
in
where
that
we're
one.
saying, give it a go kind of thing?
Nice and
Okay, so be thinking about that as you're conversing about what's happening.
He did float in the boat in the water. And what did little dinosaur do?
Bring back
Yeah, how come little dinosaur did? I'm wondering, what do we read about again?
Little Dinosaur the Hero.
Yeah, he's a hero. All right, why don't you go ahead and read about that. And let's sound like all that punctuation we remember when we were talking about the exclamation point when baby skunk, he's all excited. Okay.
Baby skunk is going down the river. Oh dear, I can't swim.
If she can't, can she? What's gonna happen?
It may be some of the conversations we have here, since we're at level 13, and that really is
He
at a level where we
comes to the
are considering
and
discontinuing.
began
What is it that will help him in the classroom? What is he doing that we know is going to be extending? And actually, since we have a first grade teacher with us, it might be like, is that matching what's going in the classroom, okay?
to thank the skunk. You're the hero.
Good job. You know what I saw that you did? What did you do here? You went back and you fixed it. You did because, why did you do that?
It wasn't well.
Can you try it one more time?
Thank you, Will Dinosaur, said Mother Skunk.
Mm-hmm. What did she say?
You're the hero.
Can you check that one more time?
You're the hero.
Oh, you're the hero. Okay. All right. She's excited,
Okay,
isn't she?
so when
All
we're
right, which
thinking
one do you want
about
to read? Verbal
observable
bulldozer or naughty Ann?
behaviors that are strategic, let's just name all the things that are going well, because obviously this went well. What does he have going
How about
on?
we'll do a little bulldozer, okay?
Reread.
What happens in a little bulldozer?
Phrased and fluent.
He helps at the end. Does he want to help at the
Monitoring
beginning?
and
He's reading with
Okay, let's read just a little bit.
reading using the
of that. Okay, go ahead.
punctuation,
This
okay?
Will Bulldozer went to the two little pigs.
He's stuck on one.
Were.
Were,
Were going over the two.
Okay, so have a little conversation about those errors.
The two
Slide for slid, drive for drove,
out of the,
kept reading.
they all looked at the
Structure is something, and even at the beginning with were, maybe the whole thing takes place in the past, so maybe if he hasn't gotten that idea, then
wheel.
he's just doing it like it's happening
The
now.
car is
Because those are definitely integrated
big.
sources, meaning structure visual,
The
but his structure.
Well, they're
The
irregular verbs.
I
Right.
will-
Right. So typically developmentally, around
Exactly.
this age, kids.
So is it
learn that.
something terribly to worry about right now?
And he's probably still gaining meaning, so next time he reads this, he'll probably be able to look closer and he might get those.
Okay.
And I mean, he's definitely looking and working, it's just orchestrated, so
a little bit more.
he's on the run with it.
Phone.
Right?
Mhm.
Had to phone first. We say call,
Plus the
you know?
PH.
Right.
Be here soon, said Mrs. Big. What have done?
See, I think that must have been weird for him too, but he worked his way through that
He
one.
did. So he can do that.
He can when it's in his,
So he's slowing down to do the
Right.
work and getting there. Some searching in the picture.
And this, there's nothing to support
Right.
this part of it.
Right.
but he's never once looked up at her. So, you know, we were looking at independence, so far, he seems very independent, even though this one is providing a little bit more work than the other ones.
The hill. Look out, they shouted, here we come.
Can you do that again like they're excited? Do that part one more time.
Look out, they shouted,
Yeah, what did they say?
here we go, come.
Because
They had a
sometimes,
great time, did they ever get to town?
and I'm speaking from my own poor
They
experience,
never did
sometimes
they?
my
They never
kids
got back to
do
town.
well in a
Where do you
running
think they're
record,
going
but I
back to?
accidentally gave
They
a bunch
did,
of tolls.
yeah. They can't
in the
drive
new
into
book.
this town because there's
So I
two
just wanna
snowy
make
ones
sure
there.
that
Oh, that's so
that's
cool.
not the case, and that he
You
truly
know,
isn't
I was
that
wondering
independent
something
with
here.
it.
It's kind
Yeah.
of tricky.
Is he independent writing in the
Sometimes the
classroom?
book says one thing and our head say another thing, okay?
He
So,
can
on
independently
here,
write, but it's
they-
sometimes it takes him
We're
a
driving
long
down the
time to
road, right?
think of the ideas.
But what does the book
those
actually
kind of things,
say?
so he was okay,
Okay.
he was okay.
Can you check that drawing for me? And what was going to come next? So we put on the light bulbs. Yesterday we wrote what?
You put the garland.
And what's going to happen next? You put the star on. Where are you going to put the star on? On the tree. Where on the tree is it going to go?
On the top.
Okay, can you say that whole thing? So I can write it down? All right, go ahead.
You put the star on the top of
Very good, excellent job.
So that was a really great
And you
scaffold.
decide, do you know it really quick?
For building.
Or are you gonna try it up
Thinking
here, or do you
about
need
that
boxes?
though,
Okay,
that
you
he's
tell me
not,
what you
he's
need.
having a more difficult
Right,
time
go.
in the classroom coming up with those ideas. Is there a way to teach him to be more independent with, like, what would that take? Cause she asked the questions. Though that was her scaffold, her prompt. You know what I'm saying?
Right, get him to ask himself the questions or like think of.
Right, because as writers, you can say, okay, here's what I'm thinking, is the sentence. How do you, in the classroom, help yourself think about adding on? We could say where, we can say when, we can say how. So trying to give him the onus of how to add on.
I think he's improved a lot, like, since he's.
Yeah, we
Okay,
did notice that.
is that what you wanna start
a lot
off
of
with?
his
Or do you need
stories
to
didn't have like
Okay.
complex, you know,
Gotta use your words and tell
structures
me.
to
I
it,
see
you know,
what
it
you
wasn't
mean,
like after
okay? So
school
just tell me
or
what you need.
on the
You
weekend,
know,
it
huh?
was a
Things
lot
like
of
that?
I, starting with I.
Okay.
Simple sentences.
Okay.
And this story, I think he's written over several days, so, I mean, like in the classroom, written over several days, but,
Yeah.
right, the structures aren't real.
Yeah,
And
that
that
just doesn't,
Yeah.
just tell him.
And even that, like thinking of discontinuing him because
What are you
he
thinking?
wrote the wrong letter to start off and he knew it was
You're thinking
wrong.
about of,
But he
you
looked
know
at her
of
and he
just
didn't
like
say
that?
anything, he wouldn't
Okay, so what do
talk.
you think you need to do?
But just to teach him, well, in the
You want some
classroom,
boxes up there?
when you
Okay.
write the wrong letter, you
Um,
can just exit
it's gonna
out
be a
and
little
start the
tricky,
next one or to
Because
get that
even,
independence.
Mm-hmm.
can you push up there
The
one?
fact is he monitored it, right? He knew,
Right,
Or
he
not.
monitored,
which is the,
right,
it's
but
gonna
then
be
he
tricky,
sat
though.
and waited for
You know the word
her
oh, okay.
to do.
It's going to actually just be that O, and the tricky part is that letter. It sounds like a book, and
I
that's.
think he wanted boxes for
Can you
of.
get that word
Oh,
of?
And she was like, no, you don't.
Good choice.
Try it again.
But then you could
Let's
bring
do,
him back to
candy
like,
cane apple.
and this is one of those words that we just
Okay.
have to know fast so that you can read it and write it fast and,
Okay, try
yeah.
it, now try
we
the whole
did-
word.
and take it to fluency.
And
Right
she
there.
did ask, do you know of, just like that?
What word did you write?
Okay,
And he said no.
Okay,
No.
can you do it a
Okay.
little bit faster,
Beginning,
2 more
so-
times, go.
yeah,
Everybody's read it a lot,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
you could probably show them in text, you know, you've read this word a lot, but here's just how it looks. This is one we have to learn.
Right, right.
Go ahead and do your story.
I'm also thinking about what Missy was saying with the complexity. Think about what he's reading. He's reading pretty complex. So could we link how authors write more complex sentences and show them, you know, sometimes they add the how, sometimes they add when or and to tell more. And just say, which one of those would you like to try today or whatever, to add more to your story. And you can do that in your classroom too, so just to get complexity.
Check it. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you need?
Yeah, just show him the books that he
Sentence.
reads with complex
Speech and
sentences.
language center.
So it will, I think the only thing we have left to kind of think about is that introduction to the book and how much
All
support is in there.
right, great job. Okay. All right, can you read that part? All right, and where do we put it? On top of the tree.
Okay, so procedurally, we had a little conversation about this morning. I think we got the idea that we need to cut every word.
She is.
But she
Yeah.
had him read the phrase first and then cut it?
And then cut 'em. Yeah.
Okay, so, cause doesn't that make sense?
It does, that's why I haven't been having him read, because we're working on fluency and
Yeah.
then
Every table, huh?
choppy.
Right.
Reading is like,
All right.
Right, you can do it in a lot of
You
different
use a
places
chair,
in
you know what,
the
we should add
lesson.
that to your story.
and
Maybe we
even in
can add
writing,
that tomorrow
you
and
know.
make your story a little bit
Oh,
longer.
there we go.
How did
Or
you
we
do
can put
it?
that on.
How
there.
did you
You
do
got
it?
on the
That's important to
chair.
know in your
Huh,
story.
she
No
must have
matter
heard
what
us.
story, Who is putting that star up there and we can add that to our story to make it more interesting. That's
Perfect.
cool. All right, so I have on the story today. Do you know the story about Goldilocks and the Three Bears? You do, in the back. Goldilocks
That's always my selling point.
goes into the bear's house when they're going off into the woods. And you know what she does? She sits all over, she eats their porridge, she does all these things in the house. all the bears.
Did he say he knew the story?
Yeah.
He did.
Well, the first part of this book is
And then
going
she said, what
to
do you know
introduce
about
you to
it?
the characters. The characters are,
Yeah.
Okay.
they're bears, yeah, there's gonna be some that you know. Wee little
Or, yeah,
bears.
orienting himself.
Orienting himself to the book, so.
Yeah, so that introduces us to the
As
characters,
far
okay?
as, like, him
Is that
just
okay?
taking ownership of,
Now,
like, oh, I know this
there
story.
they are.
You know, what
what do we
do
find out
I
on this
know
page?
about it?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
here's-
that's a good point.
Here's Mama Bear,
You
here's
see.
Papa Bear, and there's, you know, even if he doesn't get to wee little baby bear, just giving him more control
The
of
chairs
like,
and the bed,
thinking
there's
about what he
3
knows and.
bears, so there
Stories
are how many
and
chairs?
Right, right. Because she was asking us about that, like,
There are
where is
3.
she
Which one do you
in too
think
much?
is going to be
And
the
where
big
could he
chair
be
for Papa
in
Bear?
more? So perhaps this orienting, if
Me?
he knew already.
Three,
Okay,
and the
so.
Mama Bear has,
I-
Yeah, because he's just
How can you
answering
tell?
questions, he's not
Mhm.
yeah.
offering anything up.
Do you know what he says?
Yeah.
It's
So
too
what
hot.
would
Can you
that
say it
sound
like
like
it would
and
be
look
too
like?
hot?
Okay, so if she's gonna, if we're gonna help her with this orienting,
This
what will that
orange is
sound like and
too
look like
hot.
for her?
Do you know what
To
Papa
do
Bear
it, yeah.
says? Or Papa Bear says?
And say, take a look at the pictures and tell me, think about the story and tell me what you think is happening
They
or
do.
tell
So
me
they're
what
gonna
you
go
think
for a
they
walk
could
in the
be
woods.
saying.
Who comes
Okay.
along?
Mhm.
Yep.
And maybe taking
What is
turns,
she
like,
doing?
I'll talk about
Tell me
this
about it.
page and talk about the next page. and
Tell me
just
what
not
happens next.
All on him.
Because if he's not really a talker, you know, you might wanna start that way, that would be a good way to scale it. Mhm.
And you may
He
need to
did.
model
What
like
did she do there, do you think?
what you pay attention to in a picture and what that makes you think of, like, oh, I noticed this, this, and this. That's making me think this, this, and then maybe later he can do that more in the book.
Cause
Maybe
you're,
they're
so
gonna
you're
be happy
modeling
about
it, and then you can go to like, so that's what you should do. I think
Right.
sometimes we
Yeah.
leave that piece off, we model it, but then we leave it there, like, it's not
Make it
for them
happen.
to do, it's just what I do.
They came home.
So that next part
and
of
they're
it,
talking
and
about
that's
what?
what you can try, or that's what you should. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
This starts like a fairy
She's
tale. so-
realizing she should have said that.
Once upon a time.
Did you see her face?
Yes.
Like,
You ever hear
yeah.
books start like that? Go ahead.
Once upon a time, there were 3
Supported.
she went.
Well, when he got to the middle, he just reread, but I
Tried
didn't see him like
Papa.
initiate with like what he
He
saw.
was under his breath, I
Was he?
think. He was
Okay.
going, his lips were moving, and she knew he was doing something. She's like, can you tell me what you're trying? And then automatically he went back and put his finger in. But then I don't know if he did, but like originally his lips were working on it.
So when you think about that, he was making multiple attempts, right, which is what we want. What he was struggling a bit more with is maybe the security of saying the parts and really knowing structurally what it could be, anticipation of that.
I think just the structure of it too is just, it's an awkward structure.
Yeah.
to
You
come
wrote
from
So
the
even if he
side.
could
Yeah,
break
you
it
got it.
easily,
Good job.
it would have been sounding
It was
weird.
just right. What does that mean, do you think?
In the
was just
introduction,
right.
did she
It was
talk
what?
about that whole size thing with the
It
fact
wasn't.
that they have
It
so
wasn't too
big
hot, it was
Papa
just
Bear
right.
has
So what
a
did Lily
big
like to
bed
do?
and a big chair, and then middle, what do you think she's gonna have?
That might have
Middle?
helped a
You
little
know,
bit.
cause that's how the whole beginning was really about setting that up.
What'd you do?
Like there's these 3 bears, and which one's the biggest?
Mhm.
And then look, Mama's kind of in the middle, and all of her stuff is middle.
You know,
And then baby bear, he's gonna have this
yes,
like
but this
wee
is
little
gonna
bed and a
so
wee
it's gonna make it
little
say-
chair, you know?
So that
It's
might have
kind
helped
of
set him up
structure
for the.
again.
say that.
But, and also
Yeah.
the meaning and how the book
8.
works.
Yeah,
How
the
it
book,
works.
the structure of the book,
Yep.
and the fact that it's gonna talk about all of that first.
Yeah.
She
So
did, she
this
ate it
morning,
all up. She
we had
put
some
the first work
conversation
on.
also
What
about,
is she
you know,
gonna do
as we
next?
get up into these levels,
She tried
it's, the complexity of the books
it was
is also what we have to unpack. So, a lot of times it'll be, you know, how they work like that, or there are more describing words that kids aren't anticipating. And we were talking about how we have to almost say,
she
you know,
tried
like,
Papa.
you know, you're reading books that are gonna have more places where they put in these describing words, like how big they are, what color they are. So as you're reading, you might have to think about that, so that you can bring it, it's not just about that book, but we're processing what all of these books at this complexity level might be like. Consolidate our thinking, so we can share out with her. So what are a couple things that we definitely want to tell her, keep going, this is definitely helping, towards independence back in the classroom, which is where we're really at with him. What stood out as really strong things?
She was talking about the book a lot and the familiar reading, like with the meaning and how the characters were saying it and giving him that deeper understanding of the story.
Yeah, so that's, I think you're right, I think that's been very helpful for him, and just keeping that meaning as the driver, like Nancy Anderson was saying, meaning and structure drive visual. If we do not have meaning and structure first, the visual doesn't work. Yeah.
And she does allow a lot of wait time for, a lot of wait time for him. I think she knows he's an underground problem solver, so she doesn't jump right in. She allows him that time to reread or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, I think those are some good things to bring forward for her. So in all the conversation we had about independence, I feel like that's the biggest piece there. What is it, either in reading, writing, or both, that we could put together in regards to here's what's next, and I think it's gonna be here's what's next in order to like let him go. What would that be? What is more needed?
Instead of she asks questions and he gives answers, whether it's in writing or reading, it should be, here's what I think about, or here's what you need to think about, and like if there's some kind of prompt there to get him, but to get him thinking about his own questions or thinking about things on his own, rather than her question it and he answer it.
So you're talking about like in that writing place?
In writing and in the book introduction.
Okay, oh yeah, you're right.
If he's not a kid that's gonna talk though, how do you get that out of him that he would do that on his own?
So we talked a little bit about that introduction, and it might be kind of like what Missy was saying, perhaps we get it started with every other page, maybe? And maybe you model by saying, oh, I think this is what's happening because I see these things in the picture. Now you do it in the next page and see if I think he will. She has a pretty good, seems relationship, like back and forth with him. I think that might get the introduction of the book going. The writing part though, what do you think about that? I think we need a little more specific in regards to support for how she will either demonstrate or prompt for him to think of those questions on his own.
I like how we talked about, thinking about the text complexity and what he's reading and then incorporating that into the writing. I think just having that model and since we know that he's doing that in reading, trying to bring that more into writing.
Yeah. So if we were going to put this into a prediction of progress, let's think about how that would sound. The child will, let's first think about the behavior. Observe, I know, you can look, totally look. And it might not even be up there because this is a little bit different. We're talking, the independent ones aren't really there. I'm doing the work for you.
I was thinking about anticipate too.
Anticipate
more complex in reading.
Yeah, anticipate for reading.
Anticipate more complex structures or, and then try that out, come to those in writing.
And use those as mentors, maybe even, for writing in order to increase complexity. Yeah, that sounds really good, guys. Yeah. All right, so what did we say?
He's a note taker.
Child will
Child will
anticipate more complex
structures
in
reading to use as a model for writing more complex structures.
in order to write.
Yeah, in order to
complex
write more
structures.
complex structures.
Okay, I think that sounds pretty great.